Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to the Accursed. It wasn't so long ago that I was talking about the possibility of being twice cursed. After all, there's all these stories about Dracula, the many times cursed. I did speak about him briefly, you might recall. And the idea that one, or one's family, can accumulate damnations like collecting baubles, pieces of jewellery, books. Well, it is certainly possible to accumulate curses. It's possible to run afoul of multiple magical maladies, but also physical ones as well. And we might consider any one of these things a curse. A little bad luck is a curse. Being treated poorly by your boss is a curse. Having an argument with the wife is a curse. But is it possible to have a twice damned family? Well, there is a family who consider themselves twice cursed, though I don't know. Maybe it is a supernatural phenomenon. Maybe two clashes with two magical powers resulted in two curses of equal magnitude that weigh down this family. This hungry family, the Blackhearts, they certainly believe that they are twice cursed, that they are on the outside looking in because of that double damnation. But if you ask me, these self-appointed pariahs of the hungry, well, any second curse is purely of their own making. Maybe because they're slightly more dead than hungry, but we'll get on to that. We will get on to that. Let's start with an origin story, shall we? I know you like your origin stories. This one's a little more open-ended than the others. You see, we'll start with the tale of a man at a time when these things were not permitted nor lawful. He was attracted to another man. He loved this other fellow deeply within his heart and soul. There are still places today where such inclinations are not approved of or legal, but that was definitely the case where he was and when he was. His desires, his wishes, his hopes and dreams, he was told by everyone who knew of them that they were abhorrent, disgusting, unnatural, that they needed fixing. He needed fixing. What he really needed, they said, was a woman who loved him. To care for him and bring out the natural feelings that his deviancies had suppressed. But this man, well, he couldn't deny what he was. He couldn't deny what he was any more than I can deny what I am, what you are. He tried. He threw himself at religion. He tried everything to make his wife happy. He had children with her. They raised a family, a relatively happy one, all told, but it wasn't him. He was a man locked in self-hatred and denial. A potent mixture. A toxic cocktail. Because every other weekend he would meet up with the man he loved, and the two of them would embrace, they would kiss, they would make love. And as soon as the deed was done, well, at that point, the hatred would replace the longing. For a long time, his partner tolerated this. He understood what our protagonist was going through. He tried to help. But one time, the hatred, it grew too much. They had a blazing row, raised voices, accusations, declarations such as, "You can't do this to me anymore. I won't let you treat me this way anymore." Well, voices were raised, furniture was flung, blood was shed, and at the end of it, the man's lover, the devoted soul who waited for a very long time for him to finally open his heart and for a crack to appear in the lie, was dead. A horrible, fatal accident. Now, our protagonist was many things. We are all of us many things. But what he wasn't was an honest man. He waited until dark. He moved the body into his wagon or his car. the origins of this story and its timeline are somewhat sketchy, and he took it to some swamps some 20 miles away. Maybe if it was recent, he had seen the movie Psycho. There was a time before vehicles had trackers and mobile phones were ubiquitous, so no one was ever going to know where he went. He dumped the love of his life in the murky waters of the swamp and watched it sink, weighed down with rocks, luggage, and memories. Regrets. But our protagonist wasn't alone in the swamps that night, it would appear, because he heard a voice bubbling from the water, begging him to dive in. Now, our protagonist, of course, this panicked him. Was his victim still alive? Was there a chance? And so he dove in. Well, he waded first, and then he dove in. He went as deep as he can. He needed to try and salvage the body of his love. He had finally come to terms with what he was. He was so filled with regret. Desperately, he tried to reach the sinking corpse. But as he tried, he was dragged down. Now, was he dragged down by the corpse, reanimated? Was it actually that his feet were sinking into loose and wet mud and the swamp pulled him down the more he struggled? Was it just that the cold water sapped his energy and so he was unprepared to give up on his quest to salvage the body that ultimately hypothermia seized him? Whatever the case, if he cried out, no one heard. Because there was no one around. He chose this spot specifically for its solitude. He drowned, and maybe he drowned next to the body of his lover. Now, where things get very murky in this tale is whether he arose as the first Blackheart, or whether it was the man that he murdered and dumped in the water. And the conclusions we can reach from either one, whether this was someone filled with regret and sorrow, or whether it was someone who was betrayed by love, in the end, this all becomes rather tangled and difficult to pull apart. You know, I know what you're thinking. We've heard tales of someone so guilty of their wrath that they were punished, cursed with a permanent rage, that we've had stories where someone was so addicted to the idea of living forever that they sacrificed the lives of others to achieve it. How is it that, arguably, let's pick the killer in this story, that this man, with all of his facets, all of his sins, real and imagined, returned as a vampire, set on draining the emotions of others? Where is the link? Is it perhaps because he couldn't allow love into his heart? And so it was replaced by a black hole, hungry for all emotion? Is it because he never expressed his true feelings in life and now must take the feelings of others? I genuinely don't know the answer. And what if it was his victim? What does that mean? Was he denied the love that he was due, and so now he wants it from all others? But that isn't strictly the case with the Blackhearts. They're not all pining for love. That would make them particularly dark and, well, unhealthy family. Not that they are particularly light or healthy. Nevertheless, the story is synonymous with the Blackhearts, but the conclusion is much debated. Whoever it was that emerged from that swamp was the first of the family. They know this. They want love. They want emotions of all kinds, any kinds, and they can never get enough. They just take and take and take. And this gets us on to their relationship with the dead, I would suggest. These are accursed who some would associate more closely with the dead than they would with their fellow hungry. There are accursed out there who incorrectly believe that the dead drain emotions from their victims, but that isn't true. That's very far from true. You see, the dead, what they do is supercharge emotions. And it's that ambience, that aura of emotion that makes them behave unnaturally. It makes them stronger, more alive. Find me a dead who wants to drain someone of their emotion, and I'll tell you, that's a void, my friend, not a dead. And in that regard, the Blackhearts are closer to voids than they are to accursed dead. They feed on emotion to survive. But, and here's the thing, they have an excellent relationship with the dead when the two work together. When their connection is more incidental, sparks fly. So let's talk about the working together. First of all, the simpatico approach. So you see, a dead of the Maven family might be throwing a party, wants everyone to be painfully, criminally happy. He makes sure everyone likes the music, tells some excellent jokes, spikes their drink with some happy juice. Soon they're all snorting coke, having the time of their life, and everyone is happy. And now a Maven, overjoyed, filled with life, leaves the party, completely aglow, sends a text to his friend, the Blackheart, they're ready for you. Now, fashionably late, our Blackheart arrives to bring the party down again. She doesn't need music, she doesn't need jokes, she doesn't need drugs to do this. She feeds on their joy, bringing them back to an even tempo if she's kind, completely drained of all emotional feeling if she's feeling hungry. Now let's take the incidental encounter, because that one went very well, didn't it? In this event, the Blackheart strikes first, feeding on someone's rage or sorrow, let's say, because frankly, she's hungry and can't wait around. This victim, it turns out, was the prized pig of some shade who was steadily breaking them down into an eternity of guilt, shame, and sorrow, and now they're just empty. They took a shortcut without the learning. A war will begin between the Shades and the Blackhearts in this case, over territory, work lost, time wasted. So, depending on the nature of the relationship, the way in which it's structured, the two can be very close. On the other hand, the two can detest each other. The Blackhearts sit on the outside of hungry society, and as I said at the beginning of this video, they would claim that's because they're twice cursed, but I would dispute that. It's because they want to be on the outside. Never mind all the twice cursed nonsense. They want to be pariahs. They want to be treated as outsiders because they look at the pompous hierarchies of the heirs and the Bathorites and so forth, and they say, we don't want anything like that. We're better staying together, or with a cursed of other lineages. So the Blackhearts are lone wolves, you could say, stalking the night without their fellow undead to keep them company, act as rivals or peers. And some of them say, our curse is to be the martyr. No, Mr. Blackheart. You are just a mess of emotions, and that's okay. If your emotions won't regulate, take someone else's, and you'll feel just fine. You'll find the Blackhearts associate with a lot of radical political culture groups, punks, anyone who pushes emotion to a fervour. The mosh pit is an exciting place for a Blackheart to visit, and also a subtle place where they can feed and the body will just get lost in the crowd. Likewise, a rally in favour of an arsehole, political or otherwise, isn't a bad place to feed, especially if you want to create a dead zone of emotion. Supporters just staring blankly at their political candidate because all of their fervour has been drained. Now, I'm going to say something I shouldn't, because these videos of ours are supposed to be about truth. They're not really my opinion. Well, that's not strictly true. I'll say it anyway, because we're honest with each other, aren't we? I have never trusted the Blackhearts. Not one bit. With the other hungry families, I always have a sense of when they're feeding. I mean, you can't exactly miss when a vampire is clamped onto your neck and is trying to drink your blood, eat your flesh, or they're gnawing at your chest to get at your heart. These things are apparent, but these slippery fucks, these Blackhearts, well, they can drain the emotion from right out under your nose, so to speak. You don't even know it's gone. You might call this a victimless crime, if they are discreet about it. I call it manipulative and predatory. So if you're a Blackheart, you're welcome. Now get out of my fucking emotions.